Hi, Tony Selzo here. Welcome to Zipline. You know, I've got one of the smartest, youngest, and best-looking CEOs in the state of Indiana on the show today. Santiago Jaramillo is doing some amazing things, has done some amazing things, self-funded his own company called Blue Bridge Digital. Santiago, you guys got a very unique value offering into a very, really succinct target markets, three that we were just talking about. How did you get off the ground? What gave you the idea for Blue Bridge?
Sure. So we began, I worked for Exact Target and fairly soon understood that the digital channels that we were sort of talking about were kind of merging and moving a little bit to some mobile channels. Mobile apps became more and more used as people bought more and more smartphones. So we began doing one of our first steps was a Convention and Visitor Bureau app, a tourism app for the city of Kokomo, Indiana, and we built it. And after we built it and delivered it for them just in time for the Super Bowl of 2012, they ended up getting a Huffington Post, Associated Press, Washington Post, some really great press for this app for their destination. And so we said, my gosh, there's 2,500 other convention and visitors bureaus out there,
right? And
they're all going to have the same needs. They're going to want the same event calendar to share events with their visitors. They're going to want the same lodging directory to help people know where to stay.
Right.
And they're going to want the same sort of attraction and restaurant directory so people know what to do and what to eat when they're in these destinations. And so the idea was, why don't we build it once and build up all the features and functionality that a convention and visitor would ever want,
right?
And then give that to them as a menu and say, listen, you don't have to pay this huge upfront cost because we're not doing it custom just for you. You're actually part of this platform that we're going to continue optimizing and improving, so that the idea is that instead of having an app that's out there in the store and the first day it's out there is the app, the best day it ever looks, they actually get an app because it's a part of our platform that actually gets better over time, and it has a very consistent cost because it's just an annual subscription. So from there, it just made sense to expand into college and then churches, and now more and more other organizations like chambers of commerce, associations, sports teams, restaurants are now coming to us and saying, gosh, we'd like to be part of your platform. You have functionality and modules already built, and you can customize it to look just like our organization. So that's kind of how we do it.
You know, and one of the things that I love about what you just said, and I want to make sure our listeners really get their head around this, making that commitment to platform as a service really focuses you in the space of using what you know how to do, what your DNA is about, to better serve the shared goal that you have with your clients. Because, you know, you and I know clients come to you and they think they want, you know, A, B, and C, but what they really don't understand is how, you know, E, F, and G, and even Z could impact their business. And when you give them some of those things, because you've put on your expertise, your digital kind of DNA, and said, you know, what if we did this, and what if this happened, and what if this affected the user experience? You bring all that to bear. You're allowing that organization, whether it be the church or whether it be the Convention Bureau, to deliver a better experience. And that ultimately is what our job is. Is that where your mind has been, to kind of to use technology to better the lives of the companies you're working with? And I don't mean to be corny, but that's what you guys are doing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. At the end of the day, we realize that organizations' audiences are on mobile. And so what we try is help them engage with their audiences through mobile channels. So if their audiences are truly spending more time on smartphones than they are on laptops, then the best way that we can help them is to say, listen, we know what 50 other convention and visitors bureaus around the world. And by the way, we're the #1 tourism app developer just from the amount of apps. And so since we get to work with so many tourism organizations, we're able to say, gosh, this worked really well for Carson City, Nevada, Gatlinburg, Tennessee. Why don't you try this?
Right.
And it's a way that we can proactively lead our clients in mobile and what's happening, rather than them be reactive and say, gosh, the iPhone 5 screen came out, it's a year later and we still have an iPhone 4 size. And many of our clients shouldn't be worried about that. And so we want to be worried about that for them,
right.
Know what's going on in the mobile world and lead them in innovation in that side.
You know, Santiago, one of the things that it reminds me of that you just said is what we like to say in our office is, are you on LSD with the client? And I know that sounds funny to say, but LSD stands for leading the strategic direction. And I think that's what you're doing. It's you're far enough ahead of your clients to saying, what if, where are we going, what do they need, and how do we apply technology this way? And then you're able to take the best practices from that aggregate of that population to reapply it and mitigate that learning curve. And I think that's what the power of software as a service is. It can continually evolve to get better and normalize the expense over the entire population. Shifting gears on you, so as you've gone down this path and you've gone from like 0 to 19 employees, what has been the biggest thing you've learned over the last 2 to 3 years?
Sure. One of the biggest things we've learned, I think, is the immense importance and value of having the right people.
Right.
And so, business at the end of the day is about the people that you bring along with you. And so for us, it's been an extremely disciplined and focused sort of search for people that not only fit the skill set and the things that we need, but also our culture, and realizing and learning those lessons that it's that being very picky and being very intentional about the kinds of folks that we bring on is truly what ends up building the foundation of our culture in the early days.
Right.
And I think what allows us to keep expanding rapidly is actually being able to find the right folks in time. And so that's been a very huge strategic focus and continues to be. And so I think that for us, when we're the bigger you get, the less far off org chart wise you're removed from the client, is making sure that those people who are interacting with the client, you're able to replicate yourself in that. So what I mean by that is the founders usually good with the clients. They have a vision, they have the strategic vision, and so they can have a very good relationship and experience. The client can have a great experience, and so making sure that same high level of experience and excellence of client experience that they get remains the same as maybe the founder isn't the one doing kickoff calls or implementation calls is hugely important.
Culture really is the killer app, right? I mean, and I think that's one of the things that has allowed you to grow. Even at your young age, to know that is the thing that you've got to capture and you've got to replicate in order to grow. Where's the future for Blue Bridge Digital?
Sure. So we look at the world and what's going on in the world because it's really consumers that lead us. Consumers make choices and vote with their feet, and they begin using smartphones, right? So we didn't say, gosh, we want to make apps because we think they're cool. Right. We said we're going to make apps because a lot of consumers are there, and we have to help brands engage with those consumers. And so when we look at where the market and the technology is going, we look that it's going to become fragmented from a form factor perspective. And so we've got Apple CarPlay coming out, right? And so it's this dashboard for cars that now powers apps and calls and music and navigation right from the dashboard. And it's actually using the same mobile SDK, the same sort of mobile software. We look at our wrist, and all of a sudden Apple and Samsung are coming out with watches. Google's coming out with Google Glass and maybe contact lenses. And so when we look at the way that consumers will be interacting with technology, they're going to access them from a variety of form factors, whether it's a watch, a glass, a device on the screen, a projector on the wall. And so we think that the best way that we can help clients is to be the single stop for them to be able to engage with all of their audiences through mobile channels. So that means that we build a driving tour app for Apple CarPlay for our tourism clients. Gatlinburg, Tennessee has their visitor guidebook in an app. Why not have a driving tour through Gatlinburg, Tennessee? We have their data, right? We have them as a customer. We have the relationship. Why not, volunteer and say, gosh, we now have this driving tour sort of product. And so that's what we're looking at, is how to better plug into the data sort of flow of an organization. And once we're able to get plugged into all the feeds and the data from the website and their database, then we can extrapolate and show that data visually through maybe an app, through maybe an Apple CarPlay dashboard, through a Apple iWatch app, whatever the case it might be, however it shakes out. We think that we can be the single sort of point for an organization to engage with their audiences through mobile, through the different form factors that will emerge.
So, and what I love about what you just said, and I want to kind of encapsulate for the audience, because when you start to get in some of those technologies, some of us are got a little bit more gray hair and might not totally be on board with some of the way that those devices are going to change the way we consume. About 5 years ago, right when you were thinking about this business, or probably still at Exact Target or even in school, I got in a long argument with a buddy of mine that has a software company, and he was saying, you know, mobility doesn't have a future because, you know, everything is becoming responsive. And I think what your company proves and what your vision proves and what you've been able to do is that mobility is changing the way we consume. It is changing the way we are dependent on technology. And if you don't build and create for those environments and you don't understand how that's going to change the way we interact with it, then you're missing consumers and branding impacts that you can make. And I think that's what Blue Bridge has done elegantly and beautifully, and I think that's why you've succeeded. Other than the fact that you've got a great culture and a great team, keeping that vision ahead has been one of your key factors. I mean, give us one last thing that you do to stay ahead.
Sure. I think one thing we do to stay ahead, I think we use a mix of right brain and left brain marketing. And so knowing that marketing and sales is as much psychology as it is mathematics. And I think that when you combine both of those, you get really meaningful and insightful campaigns and touch points and relevant communication. And so we like to lead with our gut and our instincts and sort of our strategy and our psychology, but always measure with data. And so because of that, we're able to iterate very quickly. And I know it's not a very sort of sexy kind of secret sauce, but I think that type of culture perspective permeates the way that we make decisions. And it's one where we see something, we have a guess, we have a hunch, and we go to it, but we always come back and I think measure it with data to make sure that we're leading our clients, not something that we just think it's a good idea, but something that is a good idea and comes from a good place of insight and strategy and good psychology, but also is sort of reverberated and proven by hard data, by results that we're able to show our clients. And so I think that mix of left brain and right brain sort of an approach to both innovation and marketing specifically has boded fairly well and worked well for us. And hopefully we can continue to sort of grow in that.
Yeah, well, congrats on the success, Santiago. The balance has proven to be elegant growth. You've been zipped.
Thank you.